Hello and welcome to a new edition of Travel Market Life. In this episode, we're going to be looking at the Hotel Digital Marketing Performance Index and what this means for hotels. Joining me will be Christina Lemme, Senior Director Global Media at Sojern, Caryl Helsel, Founder and CEO of Dragonfly Strategists, and Lee Hawkins, Founder of InsideOut. We'll be exploring the key findings in the report, how this links to wider trends in the market, and how hotels will respond to the ever-changing world of digital marketing.
Welcome to Travel Market Life, your companion for industry insights and professional business development. Travel Market Life. Join us by webcast, video or podcast.
In September 2025, Sojern launched their Hotel Digital Marketing Performance Index. Within that, it was looking across all the different digital channels to understand where performance was growing or falling. Customer acquisition costs were interestingly down year on year by 19%, but only as a result of using AI in Google's Performance Max for travel goals. This also saw 4 times more bookings growth and a 262% increase in conversion rate. However, across the board, digital media costs soared 20 to 40% year on year, particularly fueled by OTA bidding wars, limited ad inventory, and macroeconomic pressures. There are certainly interesting developments in and around the impact that the new regulations in and around GDPR has had on the industry. Certainly, tracking gaps emerged with Google Consent Mode version 2, driving underreported conversions and inflated cost per acquisition, up in fact 38% in Google Hotel ads. Desktop though, regardless of how often we have mobile in our hands, still leads to last click bookings, with 63% of bookings coming through the desktop, with 71% making up the revenue, while mobile still remains crucial though for research and inspiration. We'll be discussing a few more of these data points with our guests. So I'd like to firstly speak to Christina Lemme, Senior Director, Global Media at Sojern. Now, Christina, some really interesting findings in here. One in particular, which can be scaremongering sometimes, is the fact that digital media costs have particularly soared of 20 to 40%.
Yeah, we saw a significant increase in advertising costs this year in comparison with the previous. And if we compare that increase with the other year-over-year changes, we see that it's a little bit more jarring. But we did see a lot of change this year, right? I think change is one of the biggest constants in the world of media, especially in technology. So we did see that go up. I think some of the changes regarding consent, privacy, right, that added additional challenges to both the hoteliers, advertisers, and these advertising platforms themselves.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's really interesting that inflation clearly has a part to play. Media is recognizing how it is very valuable or invaluable, really, to many businesses. But as you mentioned, so regulatory compliance is a big thing for the industry right now.
Yeah, I think it's something that's going to be, it's going to continue towards this direction, right? I think one of the privacy and concerns with tracking and all those things, it's not necessarily new, but it's really continuing. And I think there's more regulation and compliance involved with it than there initially was. And that's putting a lot of pressure on the Googles of the world. And as a result, also the advertisers that are using these platforms.
I mean, the European Union introduced the Digital Markets Act just over a year ago, and I guess you've now seen a full 12 months of that impact. There's been other compliance requirements, and as you say, Google has introduced a number of products there to try to help businesses comply with that. What in particular do you think hotels need to be doing to ensure that they maintain the privacy of their users, but also maximize the opportunities they can get from the visibility available online?
I think it's twofold, right? Again, I think one of the big changes that Google put into place as a response to the new requirements and regulation around the DMA, the Digital Marketing Act, was, you know, consent mode, right? And ensuring that, you have that enhanced attribution, the consent mode, you're all up to date with what Google is prescribing is incredibly important because again, they're building their their products, right? So that they can it can work with the consent mode, right? And so that's incredibly important, ensuring that you're up to date, that you're vigilant on when Google rolls out upgrades and updates to some of these platforms, right? I think this is a lot of these media tech companies are trying to work with the new changes and challenges and identify ways to work around them while still maintaining compliance, right? So machine learning and AI is a big part of that.
Now, it's not all bad news, exactly. You have seen some really interesting developments, in particular in relation to this new technology that you mentioned about. So just tell us about the influence that you've seen around AI.
Yeah, absolutely, Ryan. Customer acquisition costs are down almost 20% year over year as a result of using some of Google's AI products, such as Performance Max. We saw with some of these campaigns 4 times the number of bookings in
So
growth
joining
year
me
over
now to just
year and an increased conversion rate. And that underscores really the efficiency of the overall campaign type without compromising volume, right? We hear a lot of people boasting about really, really high return on ad spend, but you can have a 100 to 1 return on ad spend, but if you're only generating one booking, what is it really doing, right? So Performance Max has been this really good, strong balance of efficiency and effectiveness. And we've seen that, those hoteliers and advertisers that really embrace and add these types of ad types and functionalities into their mix are the ones that are, not falling behind and getting really pigeonholed with some of the increased costs that other folks may be seeing without diversifying their mix.
I mean, AI requires data. So can you just explain for our listeners how Performance Max works with data, what data it works with, and how is it most effective?
Yes. You've heard that saying. It's one of my favorites, right? It's a garbage in, garbage out, right? So AI is only as good and effective in machine learning as the quality and the relevancy of the data that you push through. And so, you know, there are several things that Performance Max will use to improve and optimize and drive the performance of your campaign. I think one is the data from the Google Pixel and the tracking pixels that you have in place, right? I think another one is also the overall history of the campaign, right? So the more that the campaign can deliver and test and learn, the more effective it's going to be. And so what I mean by that is the more you're running a campaign and the more impressions that you deliver, the more users that you reach and garner bookings from, the more Google starts to learn about who your best guest is and better optimize your delivery so that you're going to continue to reach those users in that place, in that medium that is going to be the most effective, whether that's mobile, desktop, that's on YouTube, that's on Google search. It just depends on where you are in the stage of the booking funnel.
I mean, it's absolutely fascinating that it's able to utilize data in this way. But as you say, hoteliers need to make sure they're up on top of all of that data. It seems like it's never been more urgent for hotels to ensure that their data is in order to take advantage of these opportunities. Now, I mean, I know that there's going to be many more advancements coming over the next few years when it comes to the influence of AI, from generative right through agentic. But let's not dive into that. Let's dive into exactly the advice that you can give to hoteliers today to stay on top of their digital hotel marketing activities.
Yeah. I think a key one is, I mean, again, don't pull back on media budget, right? Now is not the time. If you can, continue to contribute to it. Continue to grow those media budgets, because the reality is, advertising costs do increase every year, right? And so you need to ensure that your media budgets are matching the rate of that growth so that you can continue to to maintain your position and your stronghold in the market. And then I would say, it's what we were just talking about. Don't don't avoid AI. It's here to stay, and it's here to continue to grow. I think Google is continuing to push out more and more features and functionalities that are, of the same vein and similar to what we saw with Performance Max, right? So you have, right, AI Max for paid search campaigns, traditional paid search campaigns, which fills in the gaps for keywords and searches that you might not have thought of or thought to include as a human, but people are starting to use those different types of search queries, especially as they're getting used to searching with more large language models, right? So lean into the new technology. That's something that we've always seen, that these, whether it's Google, Meta, they reward advertisers that are getting in on these new ad types or these new features and functionalities early on, because one, think about it, it tends to be a little bit less saturated. Not everybody's always ready to embrace the new. And two, they want to underscore the effectiveness of this new type. And so they typically tend to give more favorable or lower CPCs and costs when you lean into and embrace these new things. So make AI your friend, embrace it, especially in your media mix. It's incredibly important.
Christina, thank you ever so much for those insights and sharing some of that advice with us. We've actually got two consultants who are going to give their side of their story from having read this insights from Sendine, and how they're going to use it both in the US and a Middle Eastern market. Caryl, thank you ever so much for joining us. Love to really get from you what you're taking from the key findings in the report.
Change is a huge part of what's going on out there, and it's rapid. And I think it's critically important for hoteliers to be always learning and adjusting their strategy according to what's happening. And, I would say that the impact of the consent side of things has definitely had a negative impact on overall performance tracking, but I don't know that it's had an impact on overall performance, right? And so I think that it's really hard when you have ownership and leadership that comes in and they want, the return on everything to be more exact and perfect, and they're concerned about spending more money when you don't have that return on investment. But we need to understand that the playing field has changed, and that it is more important than ever, obviously, to get first person data. It's more important than ever to optimize your content for AI, because it's going to transform digital marketing. It already has, and it's going to do more of that. And to be sure that you know how to tell the story with the data that you do have, and that you understand what has changed so that you can explain it to key stakeholders and still get the budget you need to be successful in marketing.
I mean, there are so many aspects to it to look at. It's a constantly moving dial, so to speak. As we've identified in this piece, right? Compliance and regulation together with AI. Economic markets are changing. It's not just, compare year on year. Everything that you're doing is being impacted in some way or another. So looking at how these findings also connect with some of those wider trends, because I guess Dragonfly Strategists, you're also looking at ways that the industry is evolving and consumers are engaging with products.
Absolutely. And things are evolving rapidly. We've interestingly enough seen a pickup in contact center contacts, right? And I think a lot of it is being driven by the ease of pushing a button on the mobile phone. It's easier just to call than to book the reservation. So when you look at even your desktop performing better than your mobile, are you even tracking how many calls are being generated from your mobile devices, right? And so I think that again, we have to be constantly aware of these trends. And yes, economics have hit us hard in the United States this year, for sure, because we have international travel inbound that's down, and Canadian travel is definitely down to the US. And so, what are we going to do to shift our strategy to be more local? It's almost like this year we've had to go back and look at some of our strategies during COVID and say, how can we apply them in this market again? We may need to be hyper local because there's a bigger drive market than the international market coming in. So it's really looking at all of those things, and then where do those trends then impact how you spend your money and how you market? And I think that a couple of things that hotels are doing that is, successfully helping them in this area. One is, we've been working with a luxury hotel client over the course of the last couple of years to really optimize their guest recognition and their CDP platform. And so, really being able to capture and have a method and a strategy to capture that first party data of every single touch they have, not just in a hotel night, but every single touch they have in the resort, capturing that data and being able to market to those people directly versus having to depend on just, the upper funnel stuff. So, I think that that's one thing that's been going well for a lot of hotels and focusing on that. Another area in this is really about parity, right? And parity has become even more critical. And as we move into AI, it's going to get even worse, right? And we have some bad actors out there that put net rates out and throw everything off. And so being sure that you have a team of people, we actually at Dragonfly, we do revenue and distribution services. And so we manage a lot of parity for a lot of hotels. And it's a struggle. It's a real struggle because of these bad actors. So you really have to be about holding to contract terms with these companies, about asking them to delist you, sending them cease and desist letters, finding out where the source of that's coming from and being sure that you address it. And being on top of that on a regular basis requires, tools and to be able to shop on a regular basis and figure out what's going on with your pricing. And so, I think a focus on first party data, on CDP collection of all the data of all your customers and not just your hotel guests, and then really focusing on parity and being sure that your distribution is dialed in is critically important.
As we look at taking that step back and making sure you've got that connectivity between your call center and your data platforms, where do you see that role right now with AI and that influence that it's going to have around bookings in the coming couple of years?
Well, I think what's super interesting is the AI agents that are coming out that can talk and listen at the same time. So there are two running at the same time and they sound so human. And they actually, like if you give them a sales script, they follow it. They're not yet human to just make all the mistakes and forget the sales script, right? And so, I think that it's going to be interesting to see how AI converts reservations on a go-forward basis, right? Because they can do it now. And so I think that that's going to be something that's going to be life-changing for contact centers. I also think that having AI agents be able to take informational calls and get those off of your staff so that they can focus on the guest on the phone and improve the calls that they do handle and the upsell process and all of those pieces that sometimes contact centers struggle with because they also have in their mind, I'm supposed to have a 3-minute talk time, right? And so I think the ability of that becoming a lot more efficient from a contact standpoint. In some places, the AI is going to be better than a human at converting and following the right sales process. And so, I think contact center is one of those places that we're going to see a lot of change and a lot of AI applied. I don't think all those people are necessarily going to go away. I am sure there will be reduction in staffing up and hiring, and think about, seasonally, all these variables that people have to deal with that AI can help with. But I think that those people can be repurposed to do other things.
Caryl Helsel, thank you very much indeed for joining us and sharing your thoughts and insights in and around the Sendine Hotel Digital Marketing Performance Index.
Thank you so much, Ryan. It's been a pleasure.
Hi, Lee. It's great to have you join us today. So what are you seeing within the key findings? What does this mean for hoteliers?
It signals quite an inflection point, I think. We've moved from performance marketing to precision marketing, where consent, AI, and real-time data, it determines visibility and profitability. So, you can't judge click-through rates and return on ad spend anymore. It's, really where the consent mode has reshaping what can be tracked. The future is about building resilient data foundations with first-party data, modeled conversions, and consent-based personalization. So I think the most important thing here really is the marketing ecosystem. It's no longer optional in the commercial strategy. It's a revenue engine. And the winners will be those who see digital marketing as part of a total profit optimization and not just demand generation.
There are so many aspects and features within sort of like the technology and the systems that really help drive that performance. For you, Lee, where is the investment that hoteliers really need to make at the moment? And then what are the layers within the types of systems that help drive that performance?
Well, this is an interesting one because, we work with a lot of people that are looking at first-party data. So, and how does it come about? It comes about through people wanting to, look at personalization and own the customer. So, once they start exploring connectivity, they really discover that their data foundations are weak and inconsistent. So building a comprehensive data strategy becomes the first essential step, I think, in fixing this. So, it's quite a long and involved process to achieve full connectivity and data accuracy. But when it's done right, it transforms really the performance, enabling, confident decisions, intelligent automation, and genuine commercial performance.
I mean, most often it's lumped within the marketing department and it's like, well, perform, do well, bring the clicks in, bring the traffic in. But as you're noting that marketeers realize that there is this reliance on data, but it obviously sits higher up in the business to determine those investments to capture that data. What is the best way? What's your recommendations in really getting senior leaders to address this problem that marketeers have?
Oh, it's a good question. I think it really, it comes down to understanding and speaking to, leaders, and if them understanding the value in systems, data structure. It provides efficiency not only in operations, but in revenue generating. So, we don't often see people today with data strategies. And, when I talk data strategy, I'm talking infrastructure, I'm talking commercial systems, the whole ecosystem of a hotel. And with cloud technology, you need that because, the only efficient engine, or the most efficient engine, I should say, for the whole hotel as a holistic revenue generator is connectivity and data flow.
Now, let's look at the wider trends within marketing as a whole, not necessarily hoteliers, but the way the consumers are interacting, because there's also so many different aspects. It's not just that digital marketing anymore. I guess this data fuels many of the other channels.
Yeah, I think people need to really look at, diversification, because, we saw at some point where everything was mobile. Today, mobile is the early stages of exploration, but the conversions are coming on desktop. So, people want a quick booking, they want easy information. So really it comes down to looking at diversified distribution, I think, as a strategy, rebalancing investment and not just spending blindly, but, spending smarter. And I think in the report, the Performance Max proves that it can deliver scale and cost efficiency. And we still see that many hotels underinvest in AI channels, actually. But these tools sit alongside search engine marketing and meta search. They don't replace them. And then, one other thing is the technical gaps, rate parity and feed accuracy and consent tracking. All of these things are important, I think, that they need to look at from a consumer perspective as well, because consumers are looking at numerous different channels. They're not looking at one. So they see that there's a price here at one price on this channel, one price on another channel. It does not help people own the customer.
The market's evolving incredibly fast, technology especially. AI is the word of the moment. How concerned should hoteliers be, and what do you see is going to be the impact of AI on digital marketing and the opportunities in front of us?
I think already, platforms like Expedia and Booking.com are integrating ChatGPT and other AI assistants, so that the whole booking journey and changes. So are hotels keeping up with this? Not necessarily. Some of the big groups have just announced, the global groups have just announced that they're spending a lot of money to try and implement similar things. But I think the next wave that we will see is, ChatGPT and other platforms will perhaps become search platforms as well. So that creates for hotels, I guess, another hurdle or another set of KPIs that they need to make sure that they are visible, and they have, their websites are going to be visible on not just Google, not just other platforms, but also these AI platforms.
Excellent. That's very insightful for you. Thank you very much indeed, Lee. And that concludes our episode looking at the Hotel Digital Marketing Performance Index. Thanks to Lee, Caryl, Christina for being part of the episode today. Please look out for further developments and reports that we'll be exploring in 2026. We'll also be sharing the insights that we gleaned from the Roundtable Roadshow within the UK. And we'll be looking at setting some dates in across Europe, so listen out for those. If you haven't had chance yet, please make sure that you join our LinkedIn page or subscribe to our newsletter by visiting our website, travelmarket.life. We've certainly got a lot more in store and hope that you'll be able to come and meet us in person at some of the events. Alternatively, if you've got an interesting story to share, please get in contact. Ryan@travelmarket.life. Thanks for listening. Ciao for now.
For more, go to Travel Market Life. The music sensation by Zach Nelson is reproduced under license from Storyblocks. Travel Market Life is a Haynes Marcoms digital marketing agency production, serving the travel and technology industries.